This is my disc golf bag. I'm going to show you what's in it. Let's go do it. Okay, so not too long ago I had teased you guys about doing my first ever in the bag video. It was right when I had done all my disc inventory. I think that was in early December, and I went on vacation to Florida, and I've kind of come back and got settled now, and I wanted to finalize the bag before I really did this video. But my bag changes so much all the time because I play almost every day, if not every day, and I really like to throw a lot of different stuff just to have fun. But 2023 is the year where I've decided to start playing solo tournaments. It's my third full year going into disc golf, and I really want to branch out and not be nervous to play with people I don't know. It's not really part of my personality set to do that. But this year I love disc golf so much that I really want to do that. I really want to go out and just play tournaments. Not so concerned with how I finish, as of course I would love to place as high as possible, but this year I want to focus on getting comfortable playing tournaments so that going forward as years go on, I can continue to improve and focus on that aspect, but I got to put my feet in. So I saw there was a tournament here in Fairborn, Ohio. It's going to be tomorrow, which is February 3rd, 2024, and I went ahead and signed up for it. It's a single round C tier tournament. It'll be my first ever solo tournament. I'm nervous and excited. I'm not nervous so much about playing, which I find weird because I know I'm going to go out there, I'm going to have some bad shots, and it's all going to be on me. I've only ever played buy-ops. I've never played a solo tournament. But the part that makes me nervous is the organization, all the logistics, making sure I get there on time. Where do I go? How do I make sure I fill out my scorecard? All these things. It's my first time doing it on top of trying to stay focused and playing the game. So what I wanted to make sure I could do was build my bag to where I don't have to worry about my discs. I don't have anything in here that I haven't thrown before, that I haven't thrown enough to understand and trust what that disc is going to do. So let's show you my first ever official in the bag for my tournament. So I'm a kind of a super nerd. I work tech for a living, and that's why I have all this lovely office to be able to work out of. But you'll notice that with my disc, it's kind of the same way. The way that I outline my disc has a lot to do with the data and the numbers on them. I know a lot of people don't like flight numbers, but it's how I organize my bag. So as I walk you through it, what we'll do is we'll go through all my putters first. We'll go up to mids, fairways, control drivers, and then finally my distance or power drivers. And you'll notice a common theme that with a lot of them, I'll usually have about 4 discs per slot. And I like to have something that's very understable, slightly overstable, and then very overstable, kind of in all those slots for the most part. So with that said, let's go ahead and start. I'm going to start you off with my putting putters first. Very simple for me. If you follow the channel, you know what I use. It's my Elevation Disc OG Kois. These are just the rubber discs. This has been a contention point for me lately because I putt best with these. I putt most with these. They are the most reliable. That's why they're in my bag. I'm really on the fence about switching over to a normal plastic putter, and I don't know if I want to or not. I feel like the only thing making me want to switch to a quote-unquote normal putter is that I feel like if people see you playing with rubber putters, they don't quite take you serious. And I'm 40 years old. I kind of have to get past that and just do what's best for me and what I want to do. So for the time being, and unless anything changes, we're going to be sticking with these OG Kois. I absolutely love them. I putt more confidently with them knowing that they're rubber and that if I miss, I don't have to worry about a runaway. I feel like when I do switch to standard plastic putters that I'm more hesitant in my putting because I'm so worried about missing that I can't focus on making the putt. So Elevation Kois, I love them. They're very reliable. I know how they fly for me. I feel pretty comfortable in circle 1. I don't feel too bad in circle 2, and I don't ever get into a situation where I feel like I can't just get to the basket with these. So moving on from my putting putters, we're going to go to my throwing putters. My first one, which is my most understable putter, is my Axiom Plasma Proxy. This is an absolute great disc. It honestly doesn't get a lot of use backhands or on the tees as much as it used to in my early days, but I do keep it in the bag, especially for some utility shots. If I have to give that little floaty Anheuser drifting shot for an approach shot into the basket, that is my go-to. All right, moving up in stability from that a little bit and just slightly, this is my MVP Neutron Watt custom die. I did a video about this recently. I love having a watt in the bag for when I have a little bit longer of an approach shot that I need to go basically dead straight. I was throwing my yellow watt all over Florida, and it's just a beautiful flight. Now, tournament-wise, it probably won't get a lot of play because it is a throwing putter, and I don't get into a lot of situations to where I need to use it, but it'll be there if I need it. And then moving over to slightly overstable, I have two of these. My first one is my Axiom Plasma Envy, just the standard Plasma Envy. This one's a little bit beat in, just a tad. I can kind of flex it pretty good. But I have a second one in the Prism Plasma Envy, and this one is more stable. This is kind of brand new, just got it few weeks ago, maybe a month ago or so, but it's nice and sturdy, and I can kind of throw this into some decent wind. Very reliable. And then moving on to my final throwing putter slot, this is my go-to approach disc. Occasionally get some tee action, backhand, forehand, it does it all. It is my MVP Plasma Entropy. I used to carry two in the bag, but I just don't find that I need to. I wanted to kind of go for that same, let's beat one in and then have one that's super overstable, but it just doesn't happen. Now this one's recently been put in my bag. It's a newer disc, so it was pretty sturdy, but I did get a nick on it on the very first throw. I don't know how it happened, but this is a great disc. Like I said, I will use it backhand off the tee if the hole calls for it, but where it gets most of its usage is going to be my forehand up shots, and it's just very reliable. All right, so let's talk mid-ranges now. Kind of the same structure here. We're going to start off the most understable. This is my MVP Neutron Uplink, and this is an absolute gem. This is used for if I really need a drifting backhand shot. I can put it up there and it'll drift all the way over. If you're local, Carroll, hole 7, this gets thrown every single time there, and it always gets me in putting range where I can miss my putt and take my par no problem. Moving up just a little bit from that in stability is my Streamline Proton Soft Echo. This is a shocker of a disc for me because I bought it last summer when it dropped. Didn't find a use for it based off the numbers. It's so close to like a hex that I would usually bag. But this year I started throwing it a lot, and I really love it because you can really work it on some nice drift, but it can still come back. It has a weird stability to it. I also find on downhill shots on this, I can kind of throw this flat and it'll kind of just drift and match the hill angle all the way down. So really love this one. And then moving up just a little bit from that, this is a slot that changes probably the most in my bag. It's kind of what I would consider my straightest mid-range. Typically you'll find me throwing a hex. If I had to say, give me a disc that I'll never be able to switch again for this slot, it would be an Axiom Hex. But for right now, I am using my MVP Fission Reactor All Black. Absolutely love the way this disc looks, but even more I love the way it flies. It tends to be just a little bit more stable than what I get out of a hex, so that fits well having that Proton Soft Echo underneath this. This one will have a little bit more of a fade at the end. And my final slot for my mid-range is probably one of my top 3 favorite discs in my entire bag. I absolutely love this Axiom Prism Plasma Pyro. Try to say that 3 times fast. This thing is nice and stable, but it's very workable too. And you can just throw this as hard as you can for someone like me and get some nice flex out of it with a really dependable finish at the end. Now, it also throws great on forehand. So if I find myself just a little uncomfortable with my distance on my upshot with the Entropy, I'll move up to this and feel solid about it. And I know that this will handle a little bit of wind too. Get a nice little flex out of it. And shout out Dan Brooks Wells on the Banana Bear stamp. And this color scheme, I just love it so much. You can tell I have my Envy in the same color scheme. This like Merlot burgundy rim and this like orangish gold plasma plastic. It's just absolutely, if I could build an entire bag out of this color scheme, I would do it. Fairway drivers. Love fairway drivers. So my first one and my most understable is this MVP Neutron Relay. This is an absolute gem of a disc, and it's actually the first disc I ever bought. The first day I ever played disc golf, I went to my local store here in town, Dayton, Ohio. Shout out to Hazy Shade. And I bought myself 4 discs, and this was one of them, and it's been in my bag ever since. It's never left the bag. Now, I will say it doesn't get a lot of usage, which would be weird. It's always in my bag, but it's a super utility disc. It pretty much matches the same thing that I do with my Proxy. When I need a nice Anheuser forehand shot that goes Anheuser the whole way down, I'll throw this out there on that forehand, and I love it. Moving up just a little bit from that, should be no surprise to anyone. This is going to be my Axiom Fission Crave. I typically throw plasma, but I saw this one a couple months ago when I needed to replace one that I had taken out of the bag. And I figured I'd give the fission a try. I do like fission plastic. And I kind of wanted to switch it up. I don't have much going on in yellow and red, so trying it out. I do find that this one seems to be a little bit less stable than what a typical Crave is for me, but not a problem, because moving up from that, I have my MVP Proton Servo. And I used to never throw a servo because I felt like it was so similar to a Crave, but this one has a nice finish, a nice stable finish to it, nice fade, as to where that Crave will keep drifting right if I throw it correctly. And then moving on to my final fairway driver, this is also a disc that's been in my bag since I first started, but I didn't buy it. My buddy here, who is my doubles partner, gave me this one. This is my MVP Neutron Resistor, and this is an absolute go-to disc. Unless you need maximum distance, you just need that, you know, good 300 to 330 range, or even shorter in some scenarios. You can finesse this driver. It's really wind resistant. It's almost like a baby Firebird. Really love this. It gets a lot of forehand usage, but it also gets a lot of backhand usage. I can throw it. If I feel like my pyro's just not got enough distance to get there, I'll move up to this, and it does the job really well. Alrighty, and moving on to what I would call my control drivers. This is going to be everything in between, basically like an 8 to 9 speed. So for me, my least stable, I always bag this in this slot. This is my Axiom Plasma Insanity. This one is brand new, well, a couple weeks old, but it's new and it's really stable as far as Insanities go. So I really need to hit some trees, which won't be a problem for me, and get this one beat in to be nice and flippy. I'm not too concerned about it. It probably won't get a lot of usage in any tournament play until I do get it beat in, but I have another disc that can tackle that in the meantime. I'll let you know when we get to that. All right, moving up just a little bit in stability from that, this is my absolute go-to driver. And if the conditions are somewhat normal, like no major wind or no major weather issues, and I really just say, hey, like what's a good long driver that I can throw, and I know exactly what it's gonna do every single time, be reliable. I won't burn it over, I won't saw it off, it'll go straight the whole way. I'll talk forever if you let me. MVP Plasma Tesla. If you are an MVP thrower and you don't have a Tesla in your bag, I don't know what you're doing. This is the most straight, reliable, long driver that I have ever thrown, and I absolutely love it. This is, especially when I get in front of people I'm not used to playing with, if I get nervous, I'm like, man, I need a disc that I'm not gonna make a fool of myself. I'll throw that. All right, here's a disc that I recently switched out. So going a little bit overstable in that 9-speed slot, I'm going to go with my Thought Space Athletics Nebula Ethereal Coalesce. But this one's actually really beautiful. I did have a Axiom Wrath in there for a little while, but I found it was too similar to the Tesla, so I recently took it out and I put the Coalesce back in there, and this has a really nice dependable fade on it. It's really hard to turn this one over into the ground. You can flex it, but it won't roll over on you unless you do something silly. And then moving on to my final 9-speed slot, this should be no surprise to anyone. This is going to be my Axiom Neutron Fireball. Now, typically, I always try to default to plasma plastic when I'm throwing anything in the MVP manufacturer brands. But this is actually, with the relay, one of the first 4 discs I ever bought. And I had no earthly business buying this, and the guy at Hazy told me that. I didn't know what the flight numbers meant, and he said, hey man, this is not gonna be a good disc for you, for this being your first day ever playing disc golf. But now that I've been playing for a couple years, I've really found a good usage for this. And it's my wind fighter. I can throw it really hard on backhand, know what it's gonna do, and if I need to get out of a forehand jam, this can get me out too. This one's really beefy compared to some of the ones I've thrown, so I like it. And then moving on to my distance drivers, I typically try not to throw anything over an 11 speed. I don't really like 12s, and anything larger than that, I'm not very good at throwing. I don't have that kind of arm speed. So my first one and my most understable is a disc I found about this time last year, and I absolutely love it. It's one of my most favorite fun discs to throw. It's not super reliable, but if you know how to throw it and you throw it in the right conditions, it's great. It is my Mint Disc Sublime Freetail. But this is just an absolute gem. You can throw this. If you're a beginner and you're looking for a distance driver, this is what I would recommend. I wouldn't go anything faster in this. This can be super flippy, but if you throw it on a hyzer, it can flip up to flat and just go straight forever. This is also a disc that you can kind of throw a little bit nose up into the sky and watch it just Annie on a long fade over. You can do some great things with this disc. And this being in the bag is why I said I'm not concerned about my Insanity being a little bit too stable right now, is because if I really do need something to go right, on a right-hand backhand throw for me, I'm gonna go to this Mint Freetail. All right, and then just a little bit up in stability from that is my MVP Plasma Wave. Absolute go-to disc. If I need maximum straight distance with a disc that I can throw on hyzer, flip up to flat, and just drift right without turning the whole way, just nice little soft drift, the Wave. And then moving up just a little bit from that is a disc that I got when it came out, but I didn't really care for it. But the last couple months I've been throwing it and I've come to love it. It is my MVP Plasma Zenith Special Edition James Conrad. If you don't know me, purple is my favorite color, so this is absolutely beautiful. Look at that purple with the black and gold stamp, James hanging on there. This disc, a little bit of a love-hate relationship with it because I'm a noob and I will occasionally throw this and roll my wrist and just burn it over into the ground. But if I don't do that, I can absolutely smash this thing, and it's so much fun. Just gotta be careful with it because this one in particular, compared to the other ones I've tried, seems to be a little bit more flippy, and I can certainly make errors with it. But if I throw it good, it's great. All right, just a couple more here in this range. This is one that I just added to the bag, and it kind of contradicts what I said about having discs in my bag that I don't know what they'll do. Because I didn't throw it for such a long time, but I've been throwing it a lot the last few days. This is my Thought Space Athletics Animus. It's in the Ethos plastic with the sweet banana stamp. Thought Space Athletics has some of the best stamps in the game. I think that's pretty much the general consensus, and I agree with it. This thing's actually quite stable. It reminds me a lot of my Coalesce. So if I want a Coalesce that'll go a little bit longer and maybe fight the wind, I'll go to the Animus. And then moving on to another disc I've thrown a lot over the years, and I can get a lot of great glide and drift out of it, but a reliable fade, my Streamline Plasma Trace. This is, along with my Freetail, this is probably one of the discs I have the most on my rack. I probably got about 6 or 7 of these. Just a great disc. There's not a whole lot to talk about it. I mean, it reminds me a lot of an Innova Wraith. It's got the same numbers. You can get a nice little turn out of it, but always a reliable fade unless there's some stupid wind. All right, and then moving on to my 2 final discs, I do have 2 12-speed drivers in my bag. When I finally decided to focus on trying to get better instead of just playing for fun, I decided that I wasn't going to throw anything over 11 speed. I wanted to throw 11 was my max. But then during 2023, I started working on my forehand more, and I needed something a little bit more overstable to help with that because I'm a noob. So that's when I put a couple 12-speed drivers in my bag strictly for forehand drives. Every time MVP drops something new, I usually jump at grabbing it and at least trying it out. I didn't do that with the time lapse. And the reason why is because it was a 12-speed, and I just didn't want to force myself to throw something that was too fast for me. But then I saw this one. This is a Neutron plastic. This was on DFX, their website, and this custom stamp with the disc golf basket and the beams coming out of it. It was just an absolute beautiful disc. And I will say that this, to me, seems to be one of the most domey discs in the MVP family. And I have come to absolutely love this. I've been throwing this a lot lately. I figured it would be one of my forehand flex drivers, but I've been throwing it a lot on backhand, especially in the wind. Like, it'll fight the wind, but I can get it to drift and turn pretty hard and always fade. So, really great disc. And this one, this is a Thought Space Athletics Ethereal Synapse. And I got this out of the used bin today. But this literally just replaced the same exact disc. Where are you at? Where are you at? I'm going to show you why I broke the rules with this one. It's because this disc replaced this disc in my bag. This one's a little bit heavier, so it's my beefiest disc. It's a wind fighter. If I get into a seriously bad wind condition, or if I need something that's going to fade almost no matter what I do with it for maximum distance, that's when I'll whip this out. Probably going to be pretty rare that I do that. I do know one hole that I'll probably throw this on tomorrow during my tournament. Oh, you know what? I almost forgot. I do keep 2 more discs in my bag for utility purposes. And these are recently added back to the bag. I used to throw them a lot back in the day when I was a super noob. So my 2 utility discs, I have this Elevation Newcomer Binks. It's an 8-speed driver. I will whip this out if I get into the woods and I'm scared about kicking off a tree and going far left or right. If I get into a situation where, like, I need to try to throw this down a tunnel, but if I miss, I want to make sure it doesn't go sailing off, I will go to this. If you haven't tried it, please don't Please don't judge the rubber disc because they're rubber. Go out there and give them a try. This disc is great. If you're a beginner, and this would be probably the disc I would give you because it doesn't require a lot of snap. I actually think that if you try to throw this with maximum power, that's when people don't like it, because the rubber speculation, or my hypothesis, is that when you put a lot of resistance on this, that the rubber actually stretches, and that's why people probably don't get clean flights on it. I don't try to throw this with max power. I'll throw this at like 60, 70%, and it'll fly smooth. First time I ever threw this back in 2022, it went like 350 feet, and I was a complete noob. It's a good disc. I actually have an ace with this too. It's my longest ace in history, like a 340 foot downhill shot. And then finally, this one probably won't get used, but it's there if I do need kind of the opposite. If I need something that has a super reliable fade, like a nice forehand upshot, but I don't want it to roll away, I'll go with my EcoFlex Elevation Gecko. This one shocked me. If you saw my video about rubber discs I did back when I first started this channel, I was throwing this around. I was pleasantly surprised on how it flew. But I forgot that I do keep these in my pouch as utility discs just in case I need them. So that's it. You'll notice that aside from those two utility discs and my two putting putters in rubber, that basically everything I throw is either a direct MVP manufactured disc, MVP, Axiom, Streamline, or it's an MVP type plastic that's branded by a different manufacturer, Mint Disc, Thought Space Athletics. All right, so that is it for my bag. I'm not gonna go through all my accessories because people that know me here in the area know that I am the accessory king. I got everything. I got chalk bags, I got the touch, I got the, what the heck is it called? The knee touch, the Kneesy, which comes in handy. Disc golf retriever. I got the Bushnell speaker on there, which I don't use unless I'm playing by myself because I don't like distracting other people with my music and stuff. And then I have my rangefinder. The rangefinder will be the #1 accessory that I use. I keep minis in here. Sweet shout out. You guys saw the video not long ago. Disc Dies by Melissa. I use that as my primary mini marker. So that's it. I hope you enjoy it. I know everyone's doing the in the bag stuff now, and it's fun. I love watching them. I love watching and seeing what other people, especially pros, are throwing in their bag. But if there's someone I know locally, I'd love to see what's in their bag. So let me know if there's any discs in here that you have any opinions on. Throw it down in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. And if you also see this video and you have done it in the bag, please send me a link to it. I love watching in the bag videos. When I'm working during the day, I can just throw that on my second monitor and just sit there and listen to people talk about discs all day long. But that does wrap it up. If you did stick around and enjoyed the video, if you wouldn't mind, please give me a like down below. It really does help out. And if you're not subscribed, please consider doing so and turning on notifications so that you know every time I post a new video. Again, it's been a little bit slow the last week because I have a lot of special projects that I'm trying to get coordinated and stuff, but I'm going to be coming out with 2 videos. I'm going to be trying to post every Wednesday and Friday as far as videos, and I'm going to be starting another project Mondays. I don't want to leak too much information about it. I'm trying to get it out here in this coming Monday in a couple days, but it might be one more week behind. But be on the lookout for that because it's going to be some exciting news. I got a lot going on. And again, I appreciate the heck out of you guys. This has been a real dream come true. I'm not doing this professionally. I get to spend my free time playing Frisbee and just really talking disc golf, and I absolutely love it. We are all done here. I'm going to let you go. Stop yapping about disc. And as always, happy throwing.